So in this video I'm going to look at firstly how to fix kind of housing leak, but also more importantly I'm going to look at oil in the coolant. So this is mainly for the diesel M57 engine, the 3 litre. It's the same engine in the 330D E46, and it's particularly if you've got an automatic car, because I'll show you why now under the bonnet. The M57 3 litre turbo diesel. Now with the cap off, it's depressurised. You can see this is quite thick and gooey, and that's definitely got oil in it. This should be, I think I'm running the green stuff, this should be clear. So there's definitely oil in the coolant. But like I said, I've checked all the head gasket symptoms, and I've had a head gasket go before and it's not producing that. I also tried just quickly to drain this, clean out this box, flush the whole system, and it didn't work. Other than the head gasket, which I've checked for and is fine, the only way on these automatic M57s that oil can get into the coolant, because you see it in the reservoir, it's hard to tell, but near the oil filter housing, on the back of it, I'll put up a image, is this grey kind of thing with fins on it. That's the exchange, and off the back of that there's a pipe that goes into the cooling system. Now here's a picture on Real OEM. This is an absolute lifesaver, by the way, this website for BMWs in general. I used it all the time on my E46. I'm going to be replacing the gasket here, so that's going to stop the leak coming from the housing down onto the drive. It's an annoying leak, I don't know if it's already started, you probably can't see it. Then I'm also going to replace the gasket between the oil filter housing and the heat exchange, and also, for hell of it, while I'm here, I'm going to replace the heater exchange as well, because it's impossible to tell if these have failed or not, and I might as well. The parts aren't too ridiculous. I think it was 160 from main dealer for everything, and the only issue of this job is it's access. To get a bit more access, I'm just going to remove the front engine cover. So with the cover off, it's a good time now to drain the coolant, get that out of the way with. That's always a horrible job. And so to drain these things, jack it up. The drain plug's on the passenger side, so however you want to do it. Then underneath you'll get these plastic trays. Really just need to take the front one off. It's just some screws. But you can see how bad the oil leak is. It's everywhere. So on YouTube and stuff I've seen much worse leaks, but the back tray, don't have to take it off. It does make jacking the car up a bit easier if you take it off there, because you've got that bit in the middle. The drain plug, it's a bit awkward to find, but it's on the passenger side and it's really hard to show on video, but if you can see that column with the reddish colour, there's like a twisty screw at the top, and the liquid actually comes out of that hole where the red is, but the actual valve is that screw, and you basically just reach around the back of the alternator and you can access it that way. So with the coolant drained and battery disconnected, you can start pulling away things. First thing I'm going to tackle is this radiator top hose. It doesn't have to completely come up at that side, just needs to be out of the way to give us access. So that top hose is off now, gives us a lot more access. There you can see the part again, and this duct to the cooler can come off as well. Just gives that access, makes it a bit more easier. We've got a much clearer shot now, definitely from this side. As you can see, the whole thing, it goes down quite low there, some of the bolts. Yeah, so the oil filter housing, it's best to come out in one unit, and it's simply held on by 3 bolts. Okay, so far I've not needed to remove the alternator to get to the bolts. You can see there's one there, like on the left hand side, and there's one directly underneath, just the wires obscuring it, but you can get to that. You just need a long extension, and then I assume the one we took off on the left, there's one on the mirror side on the right. So this is the tricky part. I've disconnected it, but I don't know if I can get it out in one shot because I haven't disconnected the alternator. Let's see what happens. With some budging, I got it out. All I had to do was lift up this power steering line, and I was able to drop it underneath, and now I should be able to kind of pull it up. Let's see how we go. Or pull it round even. This thing's a mess. It's hard to do this one-handed, by the way. Oh, close. Yes, that's gotta be it. It's gonna piss oil everywhere, so be careful. And you're gonna get the line stuck. That's what I had done. The one thing I was happy about was when I pulled it out, I got a mix of oil and coolant. So I'm really confident that's why I'm getting oil in my coolant. But less so is, I don't know if this is actually causing my oil leak. Okay. So I've started already, but imagine it's sitting in the car, like so. That's the block. So the first gasket is here, which, yeah, it's just gone here a bit. Not the worst, it doesn't look too brittle, but I don't think my leak is coming from here, so I thought my leak to the floor was coming off the head of the engine, but it's not. However, the heater exchange is here, and this is the pipe that obviously affects your cooling, and that's where I'm getting, I can see coolant in there as well. So let's look at this gasket. And to detach this, it's 5 T30 Torx bits. Pretty easy, just need an extension. Straight off the bat, got oil everywhere in here. So, you know, you've got lots of holes where stuff can pass through, and under, you know, obviously oil's under high pressure, so I'm confident this is what was causing me to get, I can even see bits of yucky coolant in there as well. So this failed unit, or failed gasket, is why I'm getting oil in my coolant. Now the housing itself, yeah, this is quite brittle. And it goes to show, you know, don't need to take out your alternator to do this job. Which now it's just a matter of cleaning it. At least I don't have to clean that now because it's being replaced. Brake cleaner degreases all your friend here. I'm probably going to let it soak in here as well, just for the sake of it. So I'm running out of light here, but as you can see, I've sprayed down all the loose oil and stuff, tidied up in that. Next step is to get your replacement heater exchange, and the first step is just to swap this hose over. Now for the oil filler housing itself, I've been letting it soak in some degreaser. Just take this out, get all the old oil, and then probably spray it down again. So now just move on to putting the gaskets on the oil filter housing. So there's 2. So the first being the one, just make sure it sits properly. It'll be pretty obvious which one's which. can. People dab with oil, people don't. It's just one of those things. But can you see now this is fitting a bit proud compared to what it used to fit, so it's actually, you know, creating a seal rather than just sticking flesh and causing leaks. So that's that side. So that's the heater exchange gasket in, and now just the oil filter housing gasket to the engine. So once the whole thing's back together and torqued down, just throw it back in. Light's gone, so I'll pick the rest of this up tomorrow. So it's day 2 of the heater exchange change. As you can see, it's pretty early, but it's not too cold. So just to go back, last video was making room to take the actual unit out, draining the coolant, removing this top radiator hose, undoing it, and then slipping it out. So it's just a reverse basically to put it back in. This is the nice heater exchange bolted up, and time to put it in. And I know I said it was tricky to pull out, but you can still do it without removing this power steering line, and without removing the alternator to put it back in. Just make sure your gasket's on properly. It should sit quite well. And then if you kind of put it in this angle, so the gasket facing you, whereas it should actually face the engine, and then you can get it under the line and then just rotate it in, sort of the reverse of how I got it out. And then reassembly of the oil filter housing. It's just the 3 bolts, like left, down and right. You should know anyway because you pulled them out. So once it's torqued down, remember this coolant hose that comes off the back of the exchange. This is where you get a lot of your issues, so make sure that goes back into here. It's just this plastic clip here. At least it's a clip-on one, it's not a Jubilee or anything. And then it's this big coolant hose that we moved out of the way. Top radiator one, if it'll come back. There we go. Couldn't be easier. It's another snap fitting, so just goes on that, and then you've got this little one for the expansion tank. Well, we sort of have daylight with us now. Next thing is just putting the expansion tank back on. All it is a